G'day, guys. Welcome back to the Aussie Screen Printers Club. I'm here with Sam and I'm Josh. We're keen for another episode. Sam, how's your week been?
Nothing particularly exciting to report. It's funny, isn't it? Sometimes you just can't even remember. Maybe that's my age. Yeah, a lot of printing. We're back
hmm
into pallets every week now, and
Awesome.
no space. Um, Guys are working on, well, not really a sim process, but a nice black and white five screen job at the moment. I think that's about 1,000 or 800 garments, and that's one that comes around every year, so we always anticipate it and they're always urgent, and then we get it done, and then they don't pick up for
Yeah.
a couple of weeks, which is always a bit of a joke. Um, Had two staff that were off come back, which is good. I'll tell you one thing that has happened, just real quick.
Mm.
Because we're in Armidale and it gets cold here. Um, Suddenly the white ink is super thick. So we're trying to
Mm.
mix it or modulate it, as the Americans call it. Um, and it's just like thick morasses and treacle, and it's horrible. But anyway, um, so we normally use a drill with a bit in it that is like a kind of whisk for cakes, but it's just not good enough. And I thought, oh, I know what I'll do. I'll get one of those ones that people use for painters, really long,
Oh
and they've
yeah.
kind of got a circle and they look a bit like a propeller. And stuck that in the drill and started going with it, and the smoke started coming out of the drill. I was like, okay, this isn't going. And I figured that it was really beginning to burn. So I kind of pulled it out a little bit and thought I'll just let it run
Oh.
so it can cool. Ink everywhere, all over my jeans, all over the floor. And the team just sitting there laughing at me. Okay. So we bought an ink mixer,
hmm
which is coming in next week. So finally, just thought we'd just get this done, because it does make a huge difference having
Mm.
well mixed ink before you start. And um, yeah, and so they had to really kind of obviously warm the platens up anyway, but try and warm the screens up with the ink in before we really
Mm.
start printing, just to kind of make that a bit better. Yeah, not very exciting. That was the week for us. How about you? How's your hand? You moved yet?
Uh, my cast comes off on Tuesday,
All
so
right. Wow.
that's gone pretty quickly. I'm hoping that means well, my appointment's on Tuesday. I'm hoping that means the cast comes off. I assume so, but yeah, hopefully I can use it straight away because we've got the full lease from today. So we'll hopefully start moving a bit of stuff next week
Wow.
once everything comes off. So
Brilliant.
that'll be sweet. And had two staff members start last week. So it's
Wow.
been pretty
Great.
busy here. Yeah.
Yeah. So what have you got?
So I got another graphic designer to help out and then someone to help in production too. So
Oh, that's good.
Um, she got in touch with us a few weeks ago, the production team member, um, and she used to do embroidery and sort of heat pressing stuff at another company in Bundaberg, and I just moved back to Toowoomba, so she wanted to get back into it. I was like, sweet,
That's
if you're
perfect.
looking for that kind of work, that's sweet.
Mhm.
You know what to expect then, and she knows her way around the machine and stuff already, so that's been awesome.
Goodness, that's amazing. So she can hit the
Mm.
ground running for you.
Yeah, which has been super helpful because I had a bit of a pile with my hand,
Yeah.
sort of making everything a bit slower. So we've almost got through that now, and sort of almost cruising again, which is great.
Oh, that's great. And are you able to do
Yeah,
any actual screen printing, or are you still having to DTF everything?
mostly just DTFing everything.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I might sub out a few jobs. I think my hand's going to be a bit tender for a few weeks still on to the bigger job. I've I've upped our screen printing minimum now, so yeah, we
What did
should
you go
see.
up to? What's your minimum?
I changed to 50 for the minimum.
Wow. Okay.
Mm,
It's interesting.
yeah.
Why did you choose
Yeah.
50? What was the rationale?
I think just the better that we get at DTF, um, and the sort of the jobs that come through, I think, yeah, I've just decided it's not really worth it for anything less for us or for me, I guess, because I'm the one that has to do it.
Yeah.
Um, so I've sort of made 50 the minimum. And then if we need to sub it out because something happens, then we've got someone to do that then. So I think that'll be the go. Yeah.
What was
But
the
just
minimum
as far as
before? Where were you at?
24,
Okay, it's more than doubled,
so I've
yeah.
doubled the minimum.
And have you, I mean, you said that you just done this, but have you noticed any difference? Any customers complaining or?
Not really. I've just said that's what it is, and because it's more set up and stuff, and um, that everyone sort of just carried on with it. We have, yeah, we've been doing a lot of like mixed orders, not like we've had a few bigger sort of straight like shirt orders with some different colors and designs or different colorways of the same design, but we've been doing lots of like few polos, shirts, hoodies, I guess all the uniform stuff. So
Mm,
the the order quantity or value is not that is pretty good, but it's just a bit of everything. So
mm,
it's been yeah, it's been an interesting one.
mm. Wow, that's good. I'd be interested to know. So if you had a repeat customer that's used to like orders of 24, and they
Mm.
come back and you say 50, are you going to budge if they go, well, come on, we normally do 24, we do, and that's
I
it.
just had someone they're doing a reorder and the last garments they got were screen printed and these ones I said, oh, probably gonna be like this other thing and explained it all. And they're like, okay. So they're pretty good. It's like white ink on whatever.
Mm,
Um and it was like it's tempting to screen print it, but well, I don't really have the option now. But
mm,
I think if I did have the option I'd be like, oh, just do it. But um yeah, it's just the more I sort of like it's so easy just to for that for less than that quantity or for 24 even like it sounds like a lot but it's not really for the amount of work in a way.
mm.
um so I don't know, we'll get to I haven't had too many people say anything about it yet, but I'm sure we'll have a few people trying to twist my arm and I'll probably say yeah. But I like to think that's our new minimum and I'll probably do less.
Well, I think it's hard
So
if you've got the customer already and they're used to one thing, you might lose a few,
mm,
but to be honest, that maybe not a bad thing. I think it's a good business rationale. Tempted to
mm,
do it, but for us, a lot of our customers churches and we want to serve the small ones as well as the big ones. And,
mm,
we have noticed some people taking advantage of our deals, which are always bigger minimums, even though they only need 20. They're going for
mm.
60 or 70 or whatever. And just, I guess, stocking up. But yeah, just have to watch how it goes, whether we lose too many customers or whatever, right? Um,
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
all right. So who's our guest today?
So today we have Nathan from Screen Print Australia. So he's over in Perth, WA, and I don't think we've. Oh, you've had someone else on from that side of the country already, but I haven't chatted to anyone that side of town yet. So
Yeah.
it should be interesting to see how things are that side.
You do any business out there?
No, everything seems to be eastern side. We do a surprising amount in Melbourne, considering there's a screen printing shop on every corner just about. But um, no, never sent anything that side.
Previous guests from WA for us were Onshore Threads and Antace, and there seems to be
Mm.
a lot happening over there, but not like Melbourne, not as saturated as that with screen printers. Um, all right, well, let's get Nathan in. He's sitting there waiting. So,
How's your week been?
Yeah, it's been pretty good. Got back from Bali on Wednesday afternoon and straight back into it Thursday, Friday.
Oh
wow,
no.
Yeah, needed a break. Needed a big break.
been pretty full
How
on
long
for
did you
you.
go for?
So we went away for eight days, 7 nights, and yeah, it was pretty chaotic prior to leaving. we had to postpone it one time, and we're almost about to postpone it again, but decided just to go. A couple of late nights, and we got it all done.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been pretty full on for you then for a while.
I have a lot of ups and downs with mine. There's no, I wouldn't say too much consistency like straight across. I go up, I go down, then I go up, and then I go down. I'm trying to find that nice consistent level, but just haven't been able to hit that sweet spot yet.
Mm.
Do you feel like
I
that's
feel
related? Sorry to get straight into business, but you've
No,
mentioned
that's all right.
really key. Do you feel like that's related to the market you're in or where you're physically located or?
I think it's a bit of both. I'm about 45 minutes south of Perth, and the main boys are kind of in the Osborne Park, north of Perth area, and further north is me and a couple of others down this way. But I'd say it could be location, and I think mainly the fact that I'm still word of mouth. I haven't advertised as much as I should have. Just trying to find the time being a single operator across multiple different what's the word? My brain's not working still. Barley brain.
Processes.
Yeah, across like screen printing, the embroidery, DTF, DTG, design.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's just how can I say, it's a time management game for me.
Yeah. You say your brain's not working yet, but we're just mindful that it's 2 hours behind where we're at. So appreciate you
Yeah,
getting up early. My
that's
brain's
all
not
good.
working well yet either, but I've had a couple more hours to try and wake up.
Yeah,
Okay. That thing of undulating, I mean, that's for all of us, right? I mean, I guess the key
yeah,
is to make sure it doesn't drop below, the amount of overheads that you've got and try and well, every year we always say, right, we want to flatten out the peaks and troughs. We want to try and get them flatter and doesn't happen. We had a couple that were below the target or below what we made last year,
yep,
this financial year, and the rest have been better. But you know, this time of year for us is crazy. It's just full on for us. Whereas in March it can be, not dead, but you start to worry: Are we gonna
yeah.
make enough, to pay for everything? And I think that's the problem with most businesses, is trying to get those peaks and troughs ironed out. Is that the case for you, Josh?
Yeah, absolutely. And especially being smaller, or like, I suppose now I've got a couple extra hands, but yeah, found the same thing. It's just time to work on everything, and then you're busy, and so you don't work on getting extra jobs, and then you finally finish that stuff, and then it drops again, and then you can work on sort of the more work on like getting extra work, and then it goes up. So it's
Mm,
yeah, it's just up and down all the time.
mm.
That's it. You try and work on the business, try and do some advertising, and then you get too busy, and that falls off, and then the work falls off, and then
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's a tough one.
And in a way, I think learning to cope, this is what we're always trying to do. I don't know if we manage it, but learning to cope with growth or learning to cope with the busyness is the mechanism for managing to grow. So, you know, when you're a single operator, like you say, the peaks and troughs come, and suddenly you're working late at night just to get off on a holiday. But if you weren't able to do those hours, you won't get to the next stage of getting someone to help
Yeah,
in printing or embroidery or graphic design or whatever it is. And I
yeah,
feel like that curve does get better. And not all, but most of the businesses I've been involved in, that's been the crisis: is how do we cope with all this stuff, and suddenly it's
mm,
quiet, and then, oh my goodness. And well, if we want to do this, then we need to plan for that, which might be doing more advertising to get that little bit more work or maybe a lot more work. and then get that third person or second person or whatever it is. But I feel like it does get better at a particular point. But without that hard graft, you're never going to get to that, right? You just be going up and down and
Yeah.
getting depressed after a while.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah. Is this your
That's
first
Yeah,
good to
awesome.
first foray into running a business?
Me? Yes, yes. I have predominantly worked for companies over my career. It hasn't been in screen printing or the decoration side of things. I have worked for um, uh, Canterbury International, the Triple C from New Zealand. I
Yeah,
was their
right.
graphics manager for 8 years, so I kind of
Yeah.
delved into a bit of the print and teamwear and that kind of world back then. And yeah, it was pretty cool. And talking to printers and the factories in China to get sublimation right,
Yeah, right.
to get print processes right. It was super interesting to me, and kind of just fell into it back in the day, and then um, gave it up for a bit, and then have come back to it. It's been 2 years full time at the moment, and just building. How can I say knowledge and the machinery aspect before, and me getting my head around everything, how it works, and up to a standard that I'm happy with to
Mm.
kind of really go bang and advertise into the market a bit more and figure out that time management side of things.
Mm.
So when it does, um, get busier, I don't stress out as much as I used to back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So tell us then, how did you get started? Like, um, what was the trigger to get you into actually doing? You started with printing, or did you start with embroidery, or both? Or
I started with screen printing. So we were living on the Gold Coast at the time, and we were just starting up a little brand, like everybody does, and went to China straight away
wow.
and ordered X amount of garments, due to knowing how the process worked
Yeah,
with
right.
Canterbury, um, and ordered a lot of garments in, didn't really, know what we were doing, and wanted to be able to produce like one-offs or, 5 or 10 of each garment. I decided to watch a whole bunch of videos and learn and build a wooden press to start with, and
Wow.
build a a Bunnings light table. Did that all out of the garage in Pottsville, northern New South Wales, um, and just learned from there. Gave it up until we moved back to Perth. Um, had to leave the screen printing gear over there because we couldn't fit it in the trailer on the way over, and got it over here and slowly have done it as, kind of a little side gig for personal stuff and learning again. And then really kicked it into gear after I was let go of my last job, which was working for my cousin. Um, and I've been doing it full time since, when was it? 20 mid early to mid 2022.
When you
But yes.
switched out of that other job, did you
Mm-hmm.
immediately say, right, this is it, I'm going to do screen printing? Or did you say, right, I need to get another job? Like, how did you arrive at, or is it a no-brainer? It's just obvious and you're ready just to go?
Oh, look, I did have some clients on the side with when I was working as a designer for my cousin and his business. Um, and I had enough, I think, to get me through. And then my wife decided, this is it. You either do this or you go get another job. And I decided, yep, I'll give this a crack, and if it doesn't work, I can always go back into the design side and work as designer again.
So
And
you had something
we're
to fall
two
back to, but you just thought the missus is saying, right, now or never, almost go for it.
pretty much. I have a very, very supportive wife.
That's good, isn't it?
Yeah, it's awesome. And now it looks like she's going to come in and join me a little bit with the help, and she'll learn some printing and how the whole process works. So it gives me a little bit of leeway to concentrate on other stuff.
That's good. I hope you're going to pay her the minimum wage, Nathan.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
You're in big trouble.
yeah, exactly.
So you're from Perth originally, then you were over in northern New South Wales or Gold Coast. Was it?
Yes, yeah. So um, I was born in Tasmania, moved over here when I was
Wow.
3 months.
Right.
So I call myself a Perth boy.
Yeah.
And yeah, moved over to the Gold Coast in 2007. So it was just Gold Coast, and then I met my wife in back then it was 2011, and we moved to northern New South Wales in 2012.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and then moved back in December 2014.
Okay.
And your clothing brand, was that a kind of COVID thing, or when,
Oh
how
no,
did you
no, this
decide?
was pre-COVID. This was
Oh, okay.
back in 2000 and kind of 10, 2011.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're kind of doing something back then, and kind of had to give it up. Personal stuff with trying to conceive with a baby and stuff like that. So we had to pull out of a couple of things like a block of land and to put into IVF, and just lo and behold, we conceived naturally 3 months later. So
Fantastic.
yeah, and then it was baby, wedding, a move, all in 1 year.
Okay. You did it all in 1 year.
Yeah, yeah. And I got to work from home full time with Canterbury. So, and that was taking a bit of my time because being the graphics manager, and then I was organising photo shoots for all of the autumn, winter, spring, summer drops, doing the photography for the Queensland State of Origin team, the Kangaroos, kind of majority of their the teams that they had sponsored. I was doing all of that gear, and
Wow.
yeah, kind of just had to put it on the screen printing stuff on the back burner.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned that you learnt stuff online.
Mm-hmm.
How, like, you built your own press, which, major respect, right? When someone does that,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, they're pretty keen. But who did you listen to online? It's usually the same suspects, but it's always interesting.
Yeah, it was mainly Ryan from Ryan at like his early videos from back in the day, and then just a lot of trial and error. And I was lucky enough that there wasn't much error and not much trialing, because I'd listened to the videos and trialed everything as it was. And for the first time I did a screen um, uh, exposure test, I kind of hit, it was a 7 minute exposure, and you do your tests, and I hit that one, and next day I did screen, and it turned out perfectly.
What?
Don't know how I managed that. Yeah,
A gift.
It's a big
so
fluke.
yeah, I'm the fluke master.
But you had control over the processes because you said you built your own exposure unit as well. Is that,
Mhm.
yeah, just using
Yeah,
LED black lights, or how did you?
it was literally the two halogen kit from Bunnings. So the two 500-watt floodlights, I set them down the bottom. I think it was 21 inches. There was another old bloke who I watched, and his series of videos. and that's how I got the single point with the two floodlights, the single point up to the glass, and that's how I did it to start with. I can't remember his name. Yeah, he was spot on with how he explained and told everything.
Some of them are amazing. I'm a huge fan of Cam Irvin at the Print Life, a Monument Print
Yeah,
Limited in America. Although he's gone very quiet now, but I mean he's so zany apart from anything else. But yeah, he's a real kind of warts and all guy. And when things didn't work out, he was really honest about it. I think I learned a lot from him,
yeah,
amongst others. But it's a good resource, isn't it? I think because of the entry level being generally quite low, our industry can really benefit from online training. There's a lot of people doing
yeah.
stuff.
And from what I saw, Cam explained and showed people the whole business from kind of start to finish,
Yeah.
which was great. And the same with Lee Stewart to a point. I got a lot of respect for him. He's a good bloke.
I'd say he's the most honest one out there, right?
Yeah,
He doesn't
yeah,
sugarcoat it for sure.
Yeah,
yeah.
and it's good. It's good. Like you don't want someone that just like even though he's done an amazing deal, I think, with Rock, he's pretty honest about it. If something goes wrong.
Oh,
He was,
yeah,
yeah, he was pretty open about that first one. I think he had some issues with it, and he definitely didn't hold back.
Yeah, it's good.
yeah.
Good
It's
to
the same
get.
with his little was it the Melco embroidery machine that he had, or the Rycoma? He hated that thing. He sent it
Yeah.
off. The same with the vinyl cutter or the printer. He hated it. And he goes, "Yep, this shit's out of my shop, and we're going to here."
Yeah, no, I really think he's awesome. So what was the next stage in terms of kit? So let's just clarify. So you built your own press
Yep,
and you built your own exposure unit. What did you do for a washout booth and those sorts of things?
washout booth. It
Oh,
wasn't a washout booth back in the day.
oh,
It
okay.
was the side of the house.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same one as us.
Yeah, it just got a little spray bottle. So you take that from, you just spray the water on to the screen, take it outside. The emulsion won't uh, expose because it's got the water on it, and then just hit it with water outside and let it cure in the sun. Um, that was literally the washout booth, and then I just have to clean up the mess when I was reclaiming all the screens as well.
Yeah, that's the hard bit, isn't it?
Yeah,
Concrete
yeah.
from the emulsion.
Oh, yep. I got a lot of that out the side of here when I first started it back over here, and yeah, the wife wasn't happy.
No, time to
No,
upgrade when it happens. So what did you do next? What piece of kit did you go to?
I found an old AdTech four color four station on Gumtree back in the day, so I picked that up. Had to remake the registration blocks because they were completely gone, and make the platens. So I just got MDF and melamine tops,
Hmm.
and that's what I used for a while. And that's what I brought over to WA. And um, after that, I pretty much sold everything, and then found a guy who was selling a six station, six color, the old blue Chinese presses
Mm-hmm.
off eBay. I got one of those, it was an SPS, which is the same as the AdTech tunnel dryers, little 15 amp. And I was using that here for a couple of years. And then the upgrade from that one was I built my own press. So I got some plans online, found a local manufacturer to manufacture a six color six station press. And that worked well for a while. It had its drawbacks. Um, And then from that one, I purchased a Anatole copy from China, which worked really, really well. Um, Again, it had a couple of drawbacks, and now I'm on an M&R cruiser, and
Yeah,
I love it.
wow. Okay. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, it's quite
So
a like going through again a kind of interesting curve in terms of quality. What do you love about
yeah,
the M&R?
the simplicity of it. Once you dial the setup, it's perfect. It's amazing. It's the best press I've used, even though it's the most simple in their range. It's great. There are a couple of little tweaks I'd like to do, but um, in terms of production and how it registers easily, it's great. I love it.
And their micro is pretty good. Do they have micro?
Yeah, it's got the
Oh,
micro. The
yep.
micros are awesome. Once you get past the fact that there's a little play left and right,
Mm,
it's not a full positive. So as soon as you turn it one way, it's not positive. There's a bit of slap before you
okay.
hit the area. Yeah, they're great, and it locks in and it just does not move. The registration's spot on. It just yeah, it's nice and tight. And I have the yeah, I can kind of guarantee that it just won't move over even 100 or 200 color print job, which is good for me because the other presses sometimes they would move over a little bit of time, like
Mm,
creep, and you'd have to
mm,
push it back. So
mm,
that's why I upgraded to the cruiser, and yeah, I'm not looking back.
mm. And you're obviously able to kick out some really good, I was looking on your website, simulated process stuff.
Yeah, I've only done two simulated process prints. Everything else has been solid color. So like this one here, that's not simulated. That's solid color.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So the program I use is Ultraceps, and
Yep.
they've got a great little uh, spot color tool, and that's what I used for that one. I did start with simulated process to separate it. I didn't think it did it justice, so I went to the spot color,
Yeah.
and they've turned out really really well. Pretty happy with them.
And Ultraceps is good. You like that as a product?
Yes, yeah. I'm still learning it, you know, day by day. Like the simulated process, I'm learning that currently, and I've done a couple of good prints with it. Um, but yeah, Ultraceps is good. It's a bit pricey, but for me, and knowing having that graphic design background and knowing how to use Photoshop a bit, I don't need rip software or anything like that because you can click a button and it will pull the halftones and make the halftones for you in Photoshop.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's the same. I bought. I think Matt was talking about it on your last episode. Action sets. I bought
Mm.
that as well, but I didn't. For me, I didn't find that as intuitive or easy to use as Ultraceps. But there's a big price difference between the two. So
What does it cost, Ultraceps?
I think it was. I got it on a special for 199 US. So that was about 290 $300.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Um,
It's pretty cool that you don't need a rip though. You just print directly from Photoshop once it's been half-toned.
yeah, yeah, it's great. What I usually do is I've got my little registration block set up, and I convert the channels into like I separate each channel into each layer. And then you just copy and paste and remove the white, and there you go. There's your halftone or your separated artwork. Just
Yeah, wow.
kind of a workaround.
Mm,
What do you do, Josh, for seps like that?
I'm not very good with with the old softwares. I'll usually get someone else to do it.
Yeah.
I do basic like three color sets or whatever, but anything else I just use someone else. Shout out to graphic source.
Mm,
Yeah.
But I'm keen to teach
that's right.
because we have someone in house now. It'd be good to teach them some separating, but yeah, they sort of got to know a bit more about printing too to separate well, I guess.
Mm.
Mm.
That's a big issue, actually. I hope they're not listening to this, but one of my colleagues who's great, fantastic, who works in sales, now and again has that kind of classic error of not realizing how many colors it is, you know, um, and again, not understanding enough about the print process to pick up on things like that, to the extent that I was chatting to Lydia, the production director here this week, and she said, why don't we just put her on production, 2 hours a week when we've got something interesting that's got multiple colors or whatever. And I haven't broached that with her yet, but I think it would be a good idea. But it's a real problem when people don't get how it works out there, and they're just trying to sell something, right? Oh, it's 5 color.
Mm.
Actually, it's 9 color or whatever. And I'm a bit nervous about in our little business is I do all the artwork or we outsource it to graphic source. And usually we'll only do the latter if it's a really complicated sim process that I haven't got time or patience to kind of do.
Mm.
Um, but the fear I have with that is that if we have an issue on press, I can't resolve that through them because it's a different time zone. I've got to wait 24 hours to get something back or whatever. And
Yeah.
so we try and do as much in-house as we can, but we live in a small town and finding someone that understands separations to replace me in that part of the business is going to take a while, or at least to train them up to that level.
Mm.
But to be responsive, we had one this week. I don't remember exactly what the issue was. 3 or 4 color print job, really nice clothing brand in Victoria. And something had gone wrong and they were just setting up the job. And because it was 4 colors, I needed to solve it straight away. Do you see what I mean? And go back and
Yeah.
do Illustrator, fix the issue, get the film out, get the screen burned, get it dried, get it taped, and back on press. And in that scenario, the auto is just sitting there cooling down, doing nothing. They're really smart about it now. They have ways of, if they've got like a 1 color job with a step back, they'll just leave those other screens on, cover them, and just put the other screen in another print head, and they'll just print off of that while they wait. But it's not always possible, which means at least it's printing while you're getting your act together. But
Yeah.
if we outsource that too much, we can't fix that kind of issue. So, press has to be torn down and we have to wait, which messes everything up. You mentioned that you were working nights as well as days. What's your typical day look like in terms of timing? You get up at
On my day?
4? Yeah, like
No. Yeah.
okay.
No, my day is getting up, getting my daughter ready for school, and then
Nice.
trying to start at 8:39 after she's at school, and then I try and pump through as much as I can until 5:36, kind of normal day. And if we need to, like, I can print on a Saturday here because as you can kind of see, we're printing out of our garage and shed out the back at this point. It's a kind of a maze to get into where I am at the moment, but just making it work until we can get into a warehouse or we're fully decking out the shed at the back at this point. Had to run all the 3-phase cable down to the shed, which
Wow.
it's not a small job.
No.
So once we get down there, all of my printing gear and the hat embroidery unit will be sitting down there, and then this big boy here stays up in the garage because it weighs a ton.
You know
Is
that
that success?
situation.
Sorry.
Sorry, Josh.
Okay. Oh, is that six head machine next year there?
No, that's our 8 head ZSK.
Oh, is it eight?
Wow. Okay.
That
That's
would
Yeah,
weigh.
that
It would actually weigh a ton.
yeah, it's a 1998 model, so it's when the German boys made everything out of metal. So there's no real plastic on that machine. But I had a chat with the guy who brings in and services the ZSK machines, and he went through this machine and replaced all the bearings, the belts, updated the computer, everything to modern kind of specs and standards, and it's a weapon. And we use that one just for our flat embroidery and the Tajima down the back set up just for hats.
Pretty sweet. How many heads is your Tajima?
It's six. That's a
Yeah,
six
right.
head. Yeah,
wow.
little compact. There's a TMFX2 compact.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not the larger machine; it's the smaller one, but it's good. Well, I like it.
That's a pretty big embroidery setup.
That's a
Yeah,
lot of
I love
embroidery.
embroidery.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It as mentioned before, like we've been trying to build our machines and capability in house instead of outsourcing. I've outsourced embroidery here in Perth before, and started off well, and then the quality just went and tapered down. And I originally bought a Faya six head off somebody here to learn, and that thing had been sitting in a carport for 2 years. So I needed to change all the belts and everything to make it work. But it got to a point where I could really only use one or two heads at a time. The trimming wasn't working, and I didn't have the time to figure it out. So that's where I bought the Tajima, and then the wife bought that one for her little side gig that she's doing at the moment, plus a
Mm.
couple of other things.
So
Awesome.
she has a side gig in embroidery.
She started up a clothing brand called Totem Clothing. It's kind of an indigenous clothing brand that she's uh, how can I say, it's more of like a kind of a street surf thing with a cultural spin on it.
Yeah, right. Cool.
Um, and then with that, there's all the indigenous companies and stuff like that over here that we can target as well, who do
Mhm.
embroidered polos, sublimated polos, all of that gear. So it was just getting the machinery and the capability up, and now and getting her company set up, and we got website sorted and print sorted and stuff like that, and
Mm,
kind of ready to go on that side of it as well. So there's
that's
kind of
amazing.
a couple of little things into one, if I can say that.
Yeah, two business
That'll help us.
units. Yeah,
Mm.
that's
And
very
she's
cool.
really enjoying it as well.
That's nice. I like that
Mm.
idea. I don't know. I think Josh, your wife helps out with your business as well, don't you? Doesn't she?
Not by choice, really, but who does? In between, when I need some extra hands, she always helps. Got to give her that much.
Yeah.
My wife would help if I asked her, I'm certain of it, but
Mhm.
I don't know if that would work out terribly well overall. Because it'd be a lot of no discredit to my wife, whom I love very much, but I think there'd be a lot of why do you do it this way? Why don't you do that? Um, but yeah, I don't know if I could quite cope with that. But your overheads are low. I mean, that's the gift, right? You've got three phase running. I'm amazed you got three phase in your house. That's pretty. Is that did you have that installed or was that already in part of the domestic arrangement? Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So where we are in Golden Bay, it's kind of a little beachside suburb back in the day, and it's like everything in every place, it builds up over time. So our house was built mid '95, and the owners back in the day obviously had three-phase installed when the house was built, and we were lucky. I had the electrician come around and do some updates for downlights and stuff in the house. He goes, "You've got three-phase power here." I'm like, "Oh, sweet,
Yeah.
that's good," because the tunnel dryer and the flash dryer run off it. So the next thing is getting some solar panels to bring our electricity bill down a bit.
Yeah.
Because that tunnel dryer, sucks a lot of power.
Yeah. And it's definitely, we looked at that when we were still in the house, and it definitely was a goer because we used the power in the daytime, right? I mean, Australia's got plenty of sun, and it's not like we're trying to save it in a battery and use it at night. It can really make a difference.
Oh, massively. Like I think we found out we were using 40 units a day when the tunnel dryer was on. And if we installed I think it was a 7 or 8 kilowatt unit, it would cover that, and we'd literally just be paying for the electricity at night.
I mean, that's amazing. That's going to save you thousands.
Oh, yeah. Just need to get that bad boy installed.
That's the upfront, although there are lots of benefits, well, still available. I'm assuming that's the case in WA for getting them installed.
Yes, yeah. We still have, I think something like that installed would be, the quotes are about $7,500 or $8,000, which is still fairly cheap. And then you had all your government incentives taken off as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
You mentioned about moving to a warehouse at some point in the future. You said you're 45 minutes south of Perth?
Yes.
Would you consider putting a warehouse or moving to Perth with the business? Like staying where you are, but running the business out of Perth?
No. I think, they've got the 3 or 4 main boys up that way, and further north, like 30 minutes north. I don't think I'd ever move it up there. I've got a pretty good client base down this way, and some people actually travel from Perth down to see me. And
wow,
I
there you
use, yeah, I've got clients like the Salty Hookups. That guy there, he's in Kununurra, so it's just usually sending things out by courier or delivering. So area hasn't really affected me, but in the same breath, it can affect you because you're not in amongst it, if I can say that.
Yep.
And because we don't have that bricks and mortar, store, people can't just walk in.
Yep.
I usually just set up a little meeting and they come into the office and we can go through some stuff. But even then, majority of my business I do over email or phone call. So there's not really many walk-ins, or I'd say maybe 20% of people want to come down and have a chat, and that's about it.
That's nice. I like the idea of not having walk-ins because they tend to be problematic different ways. What's your minimum? Before you came on the show, we were chatting about minimums because Josh has put his up quite significantly. But what is your minimum order quantity?
I still do 10, like a minimum of 10, because I'm still a hand press. I'm a smaller operation. I'm happy to do 10 and happy to help out, the smaller people who need a start, and then, they potentially can turn into a larger client later on. So like I'm always upfront with, if you want a 2 or 3 color job, it might be cheaper to do a DTG or a DTF. I always let people know that DTF, it's good, but it feels a bit plasticky and mucky. But some people like that just to see what's going on, and then they'll put that up on their socials and get some interest, and then we'll screen print later on bigger prints. But yeah, well,
you print with plastic or water based?
look, I started off on water based and then got over that fairly quickly. um, and I found Willflex over east and loved that ink. And then when we moved to Perth, I couldn't find the supplier. So I went to Union, and went to Union now. I've gone back to Willflex. I found the supplier over here, and yeah, haven't looked back. I use is it the Bolt Low Cure for whites, and it's amazing. Absolutely love it. And the Willflex Rio color matching system, awesome. Love
Everybody
it.
goes on about it. I've never seen it, but it's supposed to be really good.
It's amazing. Especially when you've got the white underbase, it just produces a beautiful print, and the color vibrancy is great.
Yeah, okay. Have to check it out.
Mm.
Difficult changing systems though, isn't it? When you've got something that works and you have to implement something new, you think, oh, how long is it going to take for us to get used to this? And are people going to reject it along the way? It's too hard. We're happy with what we do. Yeah.
Yeah, and especially when you invest, thousands of dollars into one system, and you kind of just push that aside to spend another couple of $1,000s to get into another system. It's pretty hard, but I'm lucky. I was a bit smaller, and I could change over at that point, and I still run some Union when it's needed, and I've always got it there. But Willflex is our main ink supplier at the moment.
Yeah. Just actually a question, it's not totally unrelated, but I always think of asking this and then forget. Are there any, and this is for all of us, but are there any designs that come in from customers that for different reasons you wouldn't print in terms of what they are, not necessarily the complexity of them, but the actual imagery? Are there things that you say, no, we don't print that? Would you just
I've
print
never
everything?
had anything, to be honest. I haven't had anything yet that I would say no to. I think someone has asked me that question before. I think as long as it's not like something too like, I don't know even how to explain it. Pretty full on. I probably would just print it. Just wouldn't go up on the socials and be quiet about it. But as long as it's not like, sort of damaging to anyone or any group or whatever, I think I'll still print it.
Okay.
As long as everyone else is okay seeing the artwork too.
Is that the same
What
for
about
you,
you
Nathan?
guys?
Is that the same for you, Nathan?
I would agree with that. If it goes against my morals quite a bit, I would say, sorry, I can't print this. But yeah, I'd print mainly, I'd print a lot of things, but if it really struck a chord with me, I would just have to say, sorry, I can't print that one, but I've never come across that. So touch wood.
What about you, Sam?
And now I'm wishing I hadn't asked the question. We do say no to certain things. Doesn't happen that often. So things for us, anything that's sexualized or what's the correct word? Risque, we don't print. Anything that's related to gambling, we don't print. Not that we get many of those, but we have had them. And anything that's in any way overtly political in a negative way. But there are a couple of other ones. One that comes to mind that was just a week or two ago was a clothing brand, and they just had statements like "I hate Taylor Swift," but it was worse than that, full on kind of. And I contacted them and said, "Look, you're going to get sued, not by us, but by Taylor Swift's organization." And there are a whole load of, Kim Kardashian and so on. And no matter what we might think about them, I'm not exactly enamored with any of them. I feel like putting that on a shirt's not good. they were really angry. Um,
Sure.
yeah, they were, it's not your choice what you print. And I said, well, apparently it is,
I'm not printing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we had, it was a few years ago. It was a neo-fascist organization, but it's very subtle. We'd actually printed for them before and no issues. It came back with a really odd design. I thought, this is really weird. I wonder what it is. I better find out who they are. And I went to their Facebook page or whatever, and they had the image, but it was a video, and it sort of was spinning around, and it basically turned into a swastika. And I was like, oh man, who are these people? And they're full on neo-fascists. And I phoned the guy, and he just went mental at me. Um, and I actually shopped him. I said, I'm calling the feds. You guys are illegal. And I did. I never heard anything else. Because I felt like they were from Casino, and it was within a few weeks of the terrorist attack by a neo-fascist in New Zealand from an Australian guy who's from Casino. And I thought, well, I think somebody needs to know about this. So I don't know if that was right, but felt my conscience needed to say something. And we also have people occasionally that come on. Our prime markets churches, a very big Christian connection. We print for any organization. We're not, prejudiced generally. But a few times you get people that come on with satanic stuff that we sort of say no to. But it's hard because everyone does get annoyed. They've already made a decision to get a quote, potentially to order the stock from you and, get the product. And you're going, we're not going to print your stuff. But yeah, it is hard. And we did have a scenario once where, how did it work? Political party, a small political party, none of the big mainstream people, asked us to make a donation to their party. And I was like, this is someone who actually came in. And I said, no, hello. Like they're probably going around businesses, saying, look, you want to support us or whatever for the election. And in the end, they said, this is really dodgy, but they said, print for us our T-shirts for the big day, overcharge us, then make a donation. And I was like, what? Like, that's totally immoral. Because what you'd be doing is taking party money, getting us to, and I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And I think he would have been able to reclaim the money himself. It was like, dude, I said, you got to be joking. You occasionally get something like that. Um, do you take money up front completely, or do you have a deposit model?
I started off with a deposit model, and then I found over time that people were just paying 100%. So that's pretty much where I'm at. I take 100% at the time, which covers, ordering all the stock and that. So yeah, and I don't think I've ever had any backlash against taking the 100% straight up. So yeah, that's what I'll continue to do. It's
Yeah.
working well
And
because
if
it covers all the.
sorry, mate, carry on.
Oh, it's all right. It just covers all the costs of the shirts or the hoodies. Especially when you're ordering hoodies, those things they aren't the cheapest.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
How'd you go with space when you do have a number of big orders come in?
Oh, don't ask that question.
Okay.
We had an order for, I think it was about 600 or 700 winter garments, and a spare room at the time was pretty much full. And that's half the reason why we need to move to the shed. So it's not in our house anymore, and we can reclaim our house as our house.
Have that kind of cutoff point, right? Where you
Yeah,
separate the
yeah,
two. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're lucky enough to have like a side access point, so I can go straight from there all the way down to the shed and just be able to put everything in there once it's all set up.
you can bypass the actual house in a way.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah,
completely.
that's neat.
I can send people down the side, you know, screen printing's down this way, and they can just walk down the back.
Yep.
And I'll have the garage door up or the door open, and people can just walk through.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a good way of dealing with that.
Mm.
I found it impossible to kind of mentally separate the work from home. I think I've always had that problem really, but having the print shop in the garage, which I loved, um, yeah, just kind of creep back in there at night and do a bit more work, and you know, it's never
Mm.
out of my mind. Do you find, both of you, do you find you're always thinking about your business, or are you able to generally like when you're in Bali, were you sort of thinking, oh, I need to get this done or that done, or were you able to actually cut off from it?
I, Me personally, I can shut off. In When we're in Bali, I still had people hitting me up and order like there were some orders prior to us going to Bali. So I said, look, I can go over there. If you just you pay the invoice, I can order everything, and by the time I get back, the stock will be here, and I can hit the ground running. So I had a couple of those, but yeah, no, I just turned off.
Oh, wow.
In Bali, you don't have your phone. You can only hit Wi-Fi spots. So
That's the answer, isn't it? Get away from um, the internet in any way you can. Yeah.
mm,
You're able to shut off as well, Josh, if you go somewhere else.
No. Well, it's what I enjoy. I enjoy business, I guess. So I'm always sort of thinking about it, but sometimes it does get a bit sort of it weighs heavily sometimes, and sometimes I wish I could just not think about it at all. But um, it is good when you sort of don't have the option. Um, it sort of removes the guilt of like that you're doing something else if you haven't got reception or elsewhere. Then it's like cool. I can't. I just physically can't do it, which is nice, a nice excuse. But it's what I enjoy, I guess. So that's always sort of there.
mm,
Yeah, it's a real problem. It's a classic kind of entrepreneurial issue, isn't it? That you spend a lot of energy thinking about how to grow the business, how to run the business, how to become more efficient, how to hit new markets or whatever. And it's so intense in the business. You know, the old adage, I think you mentioned it earlier, Nathan, of learning how to work on it or getting the time to work on it, to drive it, as well as actually to do the physical work. When you come away from it, my mind is still going. I was
mm,
chatting to my wife about it last night. Um, there's kind of chats you have when you get into bed and, hey, how was your day? What was going on? And um, my wife said, so what are you doing tomorrow morning? I was like, I got a podcast. Oh, podcast. I said, we really just need to go away. We've had a very busy couple of years with babies and grandchildren and things like that happening, and just need to go away. And she said, no, you just need to learn how to cut off. And my answer
mm,
was, yeah, by going away, like get total separation for a while. I feel like it is good.
Mm.
Occasionally, for a few years, I was going back to the UK at Christmas time or New Year or whatever, see my mother. And that was great because generally, you were shut down anyway. You're catching up with your old mates, you're seeing your mother, different continent, etc., or different hemisphere. And that was good because that just brought a kind of complete screen down and I could forget. But I feel it's a real weakness of mine is I just cannot stop thinking business, business, business the whole time. I need to get some psychiatric help or something. I need some psychological help, I should say, to help me not do that. So
I have that's like
that's funny go.
oh, I have enjoyed having the office and stuff separately because I'll go there to work on stuff, and so that's helped sort of in the evenings when like I'll still work till 6 or so or later if I need to, but it's sort of bring my laptop home, but like that's where I do my work sort of thing, I guess. And I'll still like whip out my laptop at night a little bit if I need to, but it sort of gives me that, yeah, because like I'm always thinking about it and I enjoy it, but it does after a while still sort of wear you down a little bit. So I've really enjoyed having that sort of gap between even having like the office and an in-house to being away has made a big difference, even though the production's still here
Mm.
for the time being. But yeah,
That's all going to
I was,
change for you soon, though. Yeah. How do you
be a
feel
very
about
good
it?
excuse to leave stuff now.
Yeah, good, good. Yeah, sorry, Nathan, you're going to say something?
I was just going to say, so Josh, you have just an office that you do all your invoicing and quotes and stuff from, and then your production's still at home. Is that correct?
Yeah, we've just taken over the whole lease. We just got to wait for the builder we're taking over from to move his stuff out of like the actual warehouse part of it. But yeah, we have like a showroom and office in town. It's only like 7 minutes from our house, so it's nice and close.
Yeah.
Yeah, but and then production is still here for the time being. But we start moving next week or so. But I found that even for because we still ship most of our stuff, we're getting more local business, but having that sort of location in town I think we've got some pretty big jobs from it. Um, even changing our like Google business listing, I changed it from like green printing to like uniforms or something at the start of the year, and then we got like this massive oil and gas company hit us up for like 500 hats like the next day. Just I think because we came up in like that uniform search. So and now we do heaps of work for them. So um, we it is a bit hard sometimes because people like even though we have everywhere that it's like by appointment only, we'll still get people like ring up like, oh, I can't like find your place where we sort of sublease in in the building with someone else. So we don't have like signs up or anything. And then you're like, oh, we're by appointment, but I'll rip over and say good day or whatever if I'm not there or organise a time. But that it's been a great stepping stone because going from like home to then trying to lease a full like commercial property that you can sort of needs to be big enough to like sort of fit you for the next 3 to 5 years is a big step in cost. So that was, I think that was that's been great, and that's where like our graphic designer was working out of too. So yeah, great stepping stone. I reckon would definitely recommend that if anyone was thinking about it.
Yeah.
Mm. I've thought about having sales offices in another or one other town further south of here that's bigger. Um, it's a funny old thing. Like we're in a region known as New England, which encompasses a few different towns. The largest is a town called Tamworth, and there are a couple of people there that claim to be screen printing but are outsourcing, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Um, and there are pretty much no one else. So I kind of worry that people don't look, well, they try and look locally, and they find they can't get what they want, and I just think it might be good to have a sales office down there. But I'm a bit nervous about how it works. Might need to come up and see how you do it. Um, what would your vision be? Like if I said to you both, let's dream for a second, 20 years time or 10 or whatever, where would you like to be in terms of size and maybe markets you're into, or how many autos you have, or how many staff you have? What would be your ideal in say 10 years time?
Nathan, you're up.
Oh, you want me to go first? Where'd I like to be? Sitting off Rottnest Island on a boat,
Okay,
having
yeah,
a beer, while other people are no.
That's an
um,
okay dream. There's nothing
yeah,
wrong with
it's
that, right? Like,
oh yeah, I'm a water boy, so anything on the water and boats is my thing. Um, look, personally, I like to keep it still small, but large enough that I can do the cool prints. Like
yeah, right.
for I'm more of being the designer and an artist. I like doing this type of stuff.
Yeah,
Like it's challenging. I like the challenge, and if I could do more of that and kind of hit the brand um, market, um, that would be where I am with maybe one auto, but more of a like a big 12 or 16 head, um, where you can do the big simulated process prints, and still keep a couple of manuals and have new embroidery units. That's where I'd like to be, and just keep doing what we're doing, and you know keep everything small and personal, because a lot of people come back to me and us for that, because I'm the front man, I'm the printer, I'm the embroiderer,
mm,
and they know that I'm doing the majority of it,
mm,
and they like that kind of personal service.
yeah,
But yeah, I'd like to get a hand, and I think Matt summed it up well a couple last week with you guys, that you know he'd like to still be the first port of call, but hand over like the quoting system and
yeah,
invoicing and stuff like that to somebody else,
yeah,
so you can still man the presses and be involved in the business that way.
yeah. I think that's really important. You build the business on you. You're the brand initially, and you're the point of contact, and people can rely on you, and they have that personal contact, as you're saying.
Mm,
Um, yeah, we've hit that thing where there's a disconnect, natural disconnect between the customer and me and production, because I don't do the production part. And so what we're trying to do is turn that inside out a little bit and allow customers, even just online through live streaming cameras and through
yep.
looms, to see their job on the press and see the team moving in and out there. And we have
Oh
just a
wow,
what? Yeah, that's
that's
really
pretty cool.
it's really improved the relationship with some customers. Like, not that we have bad relationships, but they say the same thing. They see their job being printed and they go, "Wow, that's awesome." And hopefully they don't go, "That's the wrong print," or "What the we just didn't approve that one," or whatever. But they
The
get to
colors
see the
off.
team interacting with their work, and seeing it being physically printed. So the cameras are on the press, actually looking at different patterns on the press. Um,
That's really cool.
and just having those cards saying, this is packed by. Oh no, it doesn't say that. It says, thanks for your order from all the team at Ministry Shirts, and it's just all their names listed, in a nice script. And we also, but similarly, we found it's been really important to make sure that the print team know what the customer's response is. So if we get a good review, we screenshot it, and we have a little WhatsApp group for the team, um, and which we found really helpful. We just paste it in there, or we get a nice email back. Thanks, it was great. We thought the print was wonderful, just so that they're also somehow still connected. They don't want to be more connected than that, I have to say,
Yep.
keep the customers away from us. Um, but it allows them to get the feedback that they need, which really encourages them, I think. But that was a natural problem as we grew, that the customer might still ask for Sam, which is fine, and want to interact and get that right. Um, but when we sort of grew at that level and that changed, they were totally disconnected from Sam, in the sense of even seeing the print. Sometimes we go
Yeah.
out and try and do something for Instagram, and oh no, we sent that out this morning or whatever.
Mm.
Um, so that's something we've really worked on, and I feel is important, because I've got to be honest. When we got someone else to do the quotes and the mock-ups and the stock ordering, I'd get a ton of emails as ever from normal customers we've had for years, and I'd have to say, "Oh, thanks for writing. Great to see you coming back. I'm going to just hand you over to my colleague who now does that." And there's that bit inside me that was like, "Oh, I hope this doesn't ruin the relationship," And I'd find myself writing things like, "But let me know if you have any issues. I'm still here. I still love you," kind of thing, and make
Yeah.
sure you give us your money. um, but yeah, it sort of happened. Like but I'm disconnected now from that. Um, did have one yesterday where someone phoned in and my colleague said, "Yep, he's right here. I'll put him on to you." I thought, "Oh no, what's this?" And it was just a customer wanting to deal directly with me. And I felt like, that was okay. Just deal with it. But it can be a problem, that, right? And I miss it. I love customer engagement when it's a happy customer.
Mm.
But yeah, how about you, Josh? What's your dream like?
Mm.
Uh, I've got like this picture in my head of what I want, like our of what I wanted to like look and feel like, I guess. Like just picturing like a Friday afternoon, like we've got a sweet like industrial like shed somewhere and it's all like done up where it's got the like nice sign writing and lights and stuff. Um and we're having like I got the smoker on in the morning and we're having like beers and like we like knocked off at one or something and we're having a mad feed and um having some good food and drinks and like just having enough people that everyone has a job to do sort of thing and they can do that properly. We've got good systems in place that everyone is just doing their thing. They're working with good people, um, and just sort of getting on with it. I think from like when I was on the farm, I saw that difference from when we were a smaller sort of company, um, and I really looked up to my boss, um, and learned a lot from him. But over time, as we got bigger, as he, I don't know, just couldn't cope with the stress as much. But I noticed the difference of I'd do some wild hours, or everyone would do wild hours for him back in the day, and then as that sort of changed, um, you sort of see the difference in everyone's attitude between the work. So I think really, I just want to have a good place with good people, and I think that way people look after you and they look after the customer, and I think the customers can tell too if there's a good workplace, and they want to be part of that as well. So um, that's my dream. Not massive, but just enough people that I don't have to be sort of in the trenches as such. I'll want to sort of deal, just check in with customers and roll around and drop them drop a carton on a Friday at the whatever site they're working at, or and just sort of have that sort of overall um, uh, looking after the business rather than actually doing the sort of day to day work on it and looking after the guys that look after me.
Mm, that's good. I liked what Black Label, sorry, Dark Label. I keep referring to them as Black Label, which is a whiskey, but Dark Label, we're talking about culture a lot and
Mm.
developing the right kind of team. And I feel like that's critical. And I think in a way, that's one of the hardest things in business is getting good people. We're getting good people that are prepared to get on and to, be gracious to one another when we make mistakes. If we had a job the other day where I think I might have said this before somewhere else. One of the team was doing this or setting up the sleeve print and did 2 or 10 or whatever it was the wrong way round.
Oh yeah.
Did I tell you that story before? And they were humiliated, and beyond depression, I think, at that time, because, we only buy the quantity that we need. We might buy one more, but if it's a, stencil hoodie or, heavy
Mm.
hoodie, we want to buy too many spare of those, right? And when it goes wrong, it goes wrong, and you get that sense of the whole team going, oh, like it's not. It's like the footy games fail for everyone rather than just one individual in a sense. And we bring grace into that and say, look, okay, we'll stuff up, but let's not do it again, and we'll get that redone. And in Australia, I think I've said this before, you cannot sort of penalize employees. You can't say, well, you broke that, you're going to pay for that, let's say, whereas you can in other countries. And so I sort of feel like people don't necessarily learn if they don't really feel it as well. So anyway, digressing, but and our team's great. They're really good, but getting to that point where they will take the hit for one another and they will, work that bit extra to fix that problem, or and they'll have a good team atmosphere at Smoko and at lunch. And, I feel like that's critical to the success of anything, because they become dependable. They depend on you, but you depend on them, and it kind of works. If you'd asked me the same question, what's my dream? And I've come to this too late in a way in life, in terms of my age, but I've got a 7-year strategy of trying to get the business to the point of having 3 autos, one which may be not used much, or, as a fallback auto. If there's, you have to drop something on a press and wait for a reburn, let's run to auto number 3 and get that 2-color job done, or whatever it is. Because we analyze here, we're crazy about looking at the daily financials and the weekly and the monthly and the annual. Because it's a very profitable business, because it's high volume, highly replicable. 10 seconds, 5 seconds, 3 seconds, there's another garment coming off and going through the tunnel dryer. The yield only increases, assuming you've got the custom, obviously. So if you're a $3 million business, your profit, let's say, might be 15%. That's quite a bit of money. But if you're a $6 million business, if you get it wrong, you might find that your profit's only 10%. But if you get it right, it'll be 30. And I think there's a point where it kicks in that's not 20 autos, but it's 3, 2 of which are running constantly, 7 hours a day, and one you add to as the overflow pressure kicks in. I think that is the point where things really start to ramp up. Just looking at how the figures work, I might be wrong about that if we get there and find out that it isn't quite like that. The point of saying that is, my objective is to get us to that point so that it becomes a commodity for sale, or a commodity to purchase other businesses and grow it that way, rather than just growing custom, and ultimately to get out of it. So I've only got 7 years, really, probably going a bit longer if I'm still here. But I don't want to do it forever. So in that sense, I've got a target that I need to try and aim for, and work out how to get to that. What is it I need to pull in? What resources? What new kit do we need to get to automate things, and so on? And that, I think, keeps me focused on managing that. But to sell a bit of that vision to the team as well, not that we're planning to just grow this to sell it, because my daughter owns this and she might just carry on. It might be the grandkids, or whatever it is, might just stay in the family, which is okay too. But the better it gets for us, the better it gets for them. And I think I'm a bit kind of cliched when I say this, but I always tell the team, the company needs to work for you, not you for the company. But if you don't work for the company will never work for you. So what that means is, the more you commit to this, all of us, the more it should be able to do something for us. It's not, the more you commit for this, the more it's going to do something for Sam and Lydia, my daughter. It's us, And so always trying to help people to see that. And I think it does work. I think you get adherence from people around that. So that's our little dream. moving into a bigger place to do that and so on. But I may be wrong. You know, I was chatting to Howard at Leapfrog Machinery the other day, and he was saying there's a lot of secondhand kit on the market. I was saying, oh, that's unusual. And he said, well, there's a lot of screen printers going bust. I was like, really? Who was that? You know, like what happened? What market were they in? You know, it's quite nerve-wracking.
Mm.
I think, oh,
Mm.
maybe this isn't going well. My wife always says, what if people stop wearing T-shirts? And I think, okay, we'll probably print on something else, but I don't see that happening. But clearly, you know, businesses are failing. We could break tomorrow, like all of us.
Mm.
Um, yeah, it's good to have a dream. It's, you know, without it, we could just spin around and we won't, even if we don't get to that target, we'll maybe get to this one. And, you know, without saying that's what I want to do, we won't move in that direction. We'll just amble along, and things don't happen by accident in business, in my experience. Probably rabbiting on a wee bit too long. Would you guys prefer to buy a place in the future or just to continue leasing one when you move out and lease?
Here you go, Josh.
I think eventually I'd like to buy a place. Um, I do sort of have plans in the future to sort of be in the real estate sort of stuff. I'd like to get a little bit involved in that. Don't know about. I think commercial one's a bit is pretty interesting. But I think if it makes sense, um, either buy or build a place. Even there's um, pretty slim pickings in Toowoomba for space. So there's definitely a need for more sort of commercial properties that are sort of the right size. So it's a pretty big job to build a complex, I guess. But I think if it all makes sense one day, that'd be pretty sweet. But I can't see that happening for a little while.
How about you, Nathan?
Yeah, look, I'd prefer to buy than lease. The dream would be, 5 or 10 acres over here, have a house and build, a large enough shed or brick shed over here and just run it out of that. Because again, the majority of our work is sending out and online, so the kind of bricks and mortar is good, but I think having it on a property would be pretty cool. And as Josh mentioned before, you could fire the smoker up at 7 o'clock in the morning, have a brisket ready by 2 or 3 in the afternoon.
About the food with you boys.
Good.
That would be amazing.
That's Lee Stewart, though. That's what Lee Stewart's done, isn't it? Like he moved somewhere else in Canada, got a small acreage and a house, and he just built a stonking great shed in one end of the paddock, and he's kind of living that dream. Although I heard yesterday he wants to move to somewhere bigger. He can't contain the business in that shed now. He's got to go somewhere bigger.
On one of the podcasts, one of the shirt shows or Printavo a little while ago, and they were talking about like his new setup. He was already sort of like trying to eye off something else for bigger. So, but is he's actually doing something now, or he's just thinking about it?
Oh, he's talking about needing to.
Okay,
it's sort of now necessary to do it. Was the language I heard. He did a vlog, came out yesterday. I was listening to it, where he was talking about that. He's been so busy, he hasn't been able to, do his videos, and he's now hired someone just to do the videos. Videographer to do that. Yeah, which is good. Let's talk about social media. At the beginning, Nathan, you were saying you don't do a lot of advertising and things. You've got a Instagram page, which is awesome. I was looking at that. What's your strategy around that? Are you thinking you're going to start doing that? Bit of advertising?
I need to do a little bit more advertising. I need to get into the real side of things. haven't uh, been able to. It's hard being the printer, setting up a camera, stopping in the
Yeah.
middle of a production, and then moving the angle, maybe doing the B roll of moving across around the front of something. Yeah, once I suppose get in the zone, you're in the zone and you just completely forget about the other stuff. Um, so that's why I just take photos from the same angle.
Yeah.
It's a bit boring. Um, it's boring. I'd like, I want to showcase what we do and how we print, but it's a bit dingy in here, so you don't have the best light, and setting up lights and stuff like that. It's hard in a small area with so much stuff. Um, but yeah, I want to do more videos and reels because I think that will bring more business and return because people can see what you're doing and possibly seeing the end result on somebody. But I'm not too sure. What are you guys experienced with the social side of things and what's worked and what hasn't worked for you guys?
Josh?
Ooh, you must have got a lot of followers, Sam, I think, on your Instagram, um, which is pretty impressive, I would say. But me, yeah, Reels definitely do a lot better um, for engagement. People, I've noticed, sort of, I'll do a few more like thirst trappy type videos for like just sweet audio and like B-roll type stuff. And I find, and then I'll sort of post one that's more of like a vlog style. And I find people engage more with those vlog style reels a lot more. It's a bit more personal, um, and sort of people get to know you a little bit. So I think, but it does take a lot of time. And then you shooting like the clips is one thing, but then you got to edit it. And yeah, so you can always tell when I get a little bit slower because then I'll start posting content again. But I think that's sort of my plan, like getting a few more people in place to help with production and sort of the order management side is to be able to sort of be a bit more consistent with that because um, definitely see that people like will see a product on there and then they'll start thinking, they're like, oh, I need some like hats like that or whatever. And then they'll hit us up for hats or they'll need some more shirts or I did one with some bags the other day and a bunch of people are looking at embroidered bags now. So yeah, but it's just time. It just takes so much time, but it does. Yeah, it's just consistency. So if you can do it every day, these guys I chat to a bit, we worked on some branding stuff and we sort of become friends. Called Boring Studios, and they've posted a video every day without, like, I don't think they've ever missed one in the last year.
Wow.
And when I started sort of chatting to them and sort of becoming friends with them, I think they had like a few hundred followers, and now they're on to like 45,000 followers.
Wow.
And they're like, yeah, but like blog, I don't know how they do it. They'll put something out every day, but yeah, I think if you can be consistent and get stuff out often, it definitely pays off. But yeah, hard work.
Mm.
What about you, Sam?
Yeah, it is hard work. We employed someone 2 days a week in 22, 23 and did a reel, I don't think every day, but probably 3 or 4 times a week. And you're absolutely right. It grew, followers on Insta grew inordinately. Like it's huge. And we were like, wow. But I think I said before, a lot of them are screen printers. And it's great because you're in the community, but I always feel slightly embarrassed about that because I don't know. I hate it. I'll be honest with you. I don't, people are always saying, do the vlog type thing and chat away and show your face a bit more. And I can think of nothing worse than talking to people I don't know, I can't see, but also, I don't know, I feel a bit of a fraud sometimes doing that, here's an underbase and here's and it can get very repetitive. And ours are just really low quality. They're the end. You look at Lee Stewart or some, like they're phenomenal videos. They put hours and hours and hours and hours into it. I don't have the time, but also even if I did, I couldn't replicate something that good. And I chatted to, what's his name? The videographer for the Golden Press Studios, because their videos are outstanding. Got to chat to them and I was sort of embarrassed. I said, look, we've got a good number of followers, but our videos are crap. And he said, that's what people like about it. Endorsing the fact they were rubbish, which is okay, right. Thanks.
You didn't deny it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great. But, it was kind of earthy and real. And, I was tripping over things and getting things wrong. And, so, but what I was going to say is now that we hardly post anything, the numbers are going down. Like I said, clearly it's something that has to be sustained, not just to grow, to keep providing material, just to stay where you're at. But also we have a couple of people that don't like being on camera in the print shop. And so all the cameras on, yeah, you're the same, are you?
This is the first thing I think I've put my face on
Oh, really?
since I started. Yeah,
wow.
I don't like being in front of the camera. I'm kind of an introvert that way, I suppose. I'd rather be the person behind the camera and being that side of things and being the creative person than the person in front of the camera. So you most probably won't ever see me, or you might see my forearm, but that's about it.
But also we'll hear your voice, right? Like your comment, will you? Is that something you do? Because I think at least, we're back to that point about vlogging, but at least hearing you say something in that mix about what's happening and like it gives you that human connection. Would you do that? Would you be prepared to not have your face, but at least talk to the camera?
I don't know. I don't like the sound of my own voice.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm one of those people.
Yeah.
Possibly when I get more courage and comfortable, but at the moment, no. I'm very, I keep things to myself type thing person.
Yep.
Possibly, I don't know. I'll see where it goes. If it works, and then you might see more of it.
Yeah. Give it a try. Like I
Yeah,
said, I can't stand it. Like having to do it, I can't stand it. Happy to listen and watch someone else, but just saying things that are sensible or intelligent is half of my problem. Um, one of the things that happens with us, because customers see that, is they'll occasionally say, "Oh, can you do a video for us?" Which then becomes a problem because I could miss the print job or just do a really crummy video and think, "Oh, I hope I haven't upset them." But that's an issue. You don't generally have time, right? So that's been an interesting one. We did one of those recently for a council who were running a festival event, and they were they were going to use it to promote us, but they're so busy promoting their own festival that they just kind of forgot. And we did this quite nice video, I thought, for them, not just of their print being done. But yeah, I don't like social media. I'm one of those people that thinks it's crap, but it's convenient. And I recognize that using it as an advertising format, a platform is good. But without getting too philosophical, I was listening to a radio broadcast day before yesterday, I think, where they were talking about particularly the youth the millennials, growing up in the world of the iPhone or the smartphone, growing up in the world of Facebook and Google, which wasn't my experience of life born a long time ago. And so their engagement socially starts there. So they start with their family. You're socialized by your family, you're brought up there and you learn the sayings of your dad and your mum and all the rest of it. And then usually school kicks in, and then you got your peers and peer pressure and then your job or your uni study or whatever you're doing. But for them, it's actually a little bit of family and then straight to social media. And the problem with that is you're not engaging with someone personally. It's when you think about it, apart from a video, it's all text. It's all text-based communication. It's all DMs and comments, right? And even if you do a video, you're not actually engaging directly with someone at that point. So there's no eye contact, there's no facial expressions or intonations necessarily when you're typing, intonations in voice, and just even physical touch. Like I'm one of those people when I chat to a mate, I put my hand on his shoulder, hey you go, that stuff's really important. And so the thing about this radio broadcast was just saying those people, the millennials, because that's their general experience of interacting with people. They're the most anxious, dread-filled, depressed, highest suicide rate generation that's been coming through ever. And I can see that. We probably all had some kind of personal experience of that in different ways. Why was I saying that? Oh, just that there's a sense in which I don't want to be part of that community in the social media space, but I recognize the business has to. All of my kids have had Facebook, but none of them have it now. They've all realized that it's not the same as interacting with their friends in the real world. And, I know it's all well documented, this sort of thing now, but so I kind of loathe it in that regard if I'm asked to make anything. So the person we employed had a second baby and no longer can do that work. So we don't employ anyone to do it now. So it's just me. So it's definitely gone downhill. And the numbers are going down. Only people sign on, or so we're getting new sign-ups or follows, I should say, every day, but we're not getting, we're attriting slowly. It's starting to go backwards a little bit, which is interesting. But we use it to advertise. So we'll do the formal adverts through Facebook that pops them in there. And they're kind of fairly shameless, pictures of T-shirts with a price straight across them, telling you exactly what you get for the deal type thing. And we just target market with that. So apologies if that appears before any other screen printers.
Yep, I get them too.
Sorry, mate. Causes them to roll their eyes. Oh, that's Sam and his tiny empire down the road. Goodness. Yeah, it's slightly embarrassing, but I don't, it's business, right? That's the way it is.
Yep.
I just need to take a toilet break. You guys keep talking. Sorry, I'll put
that. Have you noticed, Nathan, a difference in stitch quality between your older machine and newer one?
How do you mean the press or the embroidery?
No, sorry, embroidery, stitch quality, or like just do you notice the difference between like, is it a ZSK, do you say?
Yeah, the ZSK.
Yep.
So the ZSK is a 98. And for flats, it's like amazing. We were told by the guy from ZSK, don't put the cap hats on this one because they build with plastic on the inside and all the parts will go, that they won't be functional at the moment. But the ZSK, as we've spoken about before, it comes down to the digitizing, and having a good digitizer produces the good stuff. Even the thread that you use brings the quality. So in terms of thread, like I'm leaning more towards Madeira these days. I've used Coates, I've used Marathon. I've got a whole bunch of Royal, which is a cheaper thread. It's good, but it's not. Madeira's pretty good. and
Mm.
Gunnold. They're pretty good as well. I just found the polyester. I think it's polyester. Yeah, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't on the Tajima, but I dare say on the ZSK and just fire. Yeah.
Yeah,
How about
right.
yourself?
Our machine's it's not old, but it's not a new Barradin, but yeah, I reckon I think the biggest thing for embroidery is just digitizing. As long as it's digitized right, I don't think it really matters too much what machine you have.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, no, it does a good job. Did you notice uh, when you added embroidery a lot more of that, or are you still mostly screen printing? Or
Look, I always got hit up with, oh, can you get hats done? Or do you do hats? I didn't know you did
mm,
hats. I said, yeah, I haven't in kind of advertised it or put it out yet because I'm still figuring it out and learning it before I put it out to the market fully. Um, I'd say it's still a 80-20 at the moment. So 80 screen printing and 20% embroidery. But now that we have the two different machines, um, we're going to push it a bit more, and I've got to get my wife comfortable using the machines because they are pretty daunting when you first see them and not know how they work. So once we get that, I think we'll push the embroidery and hopefully it'll be like a 50-50
mm.
side of things. Yeah.
Is the margin greater on an embroidered piece of work?
Josh, you take that one first.
I don't know. It's really hard to tell because the consumables are so cheap. It's just time, I guess,
Mm,
and we do a bit of contract embroidery, and yeah, you can shoot yourself in the foot a little bit if you're not conscious of how long a design might take. Um, but I just downloaded or bought the Wilcom estimator the other day, so I've only quoted one job, just like checking out the stitches with that, to see how sort of accurate it is. But I'd be interested to see um, how accurate it is for sort of designs that have a lot more fill in it. Um, but I used to sort of quote each job, like, and sort of look at how many stitches might be in that and sort of quote it exactly almost. I end up changing the way I quote a job, um, more or less, like anything under 10,000 stitches is this amount for this quantity. Um, but for contract stuff, you have to be pretty on it because it's sort of dollars and cents then. But how have you found it, Nathan?
yeah, you bring up a good point about the estimator. Like I don't know the amount of stitches prior to getting it digitized. So I'll usually put a price range based on what I think. And sometimes I've been completely off and you kind of just have to eat
Mm,
that profit that's gone. So you quote it, I think it's about 8,000 stitches. It turns out to be 13 or 14,000.
yeah.
And yeah, it just takes longer on the machine, all of that jazz. So I'm still learning that side of it. And I think getting that estimator might help a little bit more in terms of
Mm,
getting it more profitable. But in terms of screen printing to embroidery, um, kind of on par. Like I try to get it on par. If you're printing on the press, or because it'll be me printing on the press, or the press stops, then I will be on the embroidery machine. I kind of want it similar, if
mm.
if that's the case. So
I think
yeah,
manually, like manual printing and embroidery, would be pretty on par. But if you had an auto, printing would be way better, unless you got a lot of capacity for embroidery. Um,
yeah,
but as far as I sort of almost think of the time as about the same, for printing or embroidery, but at least you don't have quite as much sort of stencil setup time for embroidery. You sort of know what's coming. You don't have too many test prints or anything else.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Do you have to do a test at all, or do you just go for it?
I used to, but I often now I trust. I know that digitizing pretty much every time is fine. So we'll often just not do one unless I want to keep that in stock, like a cutout version to refer to in future for repeat orders. Otherwise, no, I won't even worry.
And you mentioned, Nathan, there, the difference between 8,000 and 12,000 stitches. How much longer would that actually take, though, on a machine? Like, is it twice the like, is it?
Look, well, I run the flat one here at 750 stitches per minute, and that's a rough estimation based on the machine. And then my hat one, I only run at about 600. So I want to keep the quality as tight as I can. That's what that machine runs at, being an older 2003 model. The newer ones, I think they can run at 1,000 stitches without any issues.
Wow.
So, yeah, it all depends on what you set your stitch rate at. So let's say 750 stitches a minute, a 10,000 stitch pattern should be 7.5 minutes, roughly. But then, you've got to account for thread breaks, bobbin thread changes, all of that as well. So in terms of, well, there was one job, it turned out to be 25,000 stitches because we had to use a fill.
Wow.
And I only quoted for X amount, so it took a lot longer than what it was. So I lost a bit on that, but the actual end result, to me, to be able to put it up and display it, it's worth a bit more. So you take the hit for a couple of things here and there, and you learn from it. Like, I know embroidery whiz like Josh is now, but I'm learning. I'm more the screen side, and the embroidery. I'm learning day by day. I think I've got a good grasp of it, but some things just throw me still.
Presumably, if you've got an 8 head and something that's going to take 10 minutes, let's say, to embroider, you can actually print at the same time, right? You can, or is that? Oh no, hang on, your press is in a different room, isn't it?
Oh no, so that's my screen printing press there.
Oh, okay.
With that, and that's my embroidery unit for
Right,
flats.
okay. I thought
and
the
then
press was in the shed.
No, not yet. Look, I have done that in the past. I've found with thread breaks, if it happens, it just takes you off the press, and your time's not maximized, if I can say that. So if you focus on just printing, get the printing done, stop the press, then go over to embroidery and do the embroidery, you're going to do more in less time than running two simultaneously, if that makes sense.
Yeah, got it. And sorry, I know, totally ignorant on embroidery. We outsource ours. I won't say who to. Should be obvious. But though you've got an 8 head there,
Yes.
do you have to run the same embroidered piece on each one? Like, if you're filling all 8 heads, does it have to be the same, design, or can they be different designs for each?
On this machine, it has to be the same design, the same needle on each head.
Yeah.
I think some of the new ZSKs, you can do different. So say you do your logo on left chest, and then you need to do names on the right chest. Each individual, like if you're doing different names, you can do different names on each individual head.
Got it. Right.
But that's only the newer machines, which are 100 plus.
Yeah. Okay.
1,000.
Yeah, they're not cheap, are they? Big money.
No.
Yeah.
It's the same as an auto.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if you keep an older machine well maintained, they will last. And this one here is a kind of a testament to that.
Yeah. 1998, was it?
Yes, that this is a 98 model, and it's got the new computer that was put on 2 years ago prior to us
Yeah. Okay.
purchasing this machine.
What's your, just changing tune a minute, what's your
Hmm?
go-to clothing brand, or is it, you running AS Colors or Gildan or yeah,
Mm. Oh, mine's AS Color. You can't beat them for quality and price point. Although that they have gone up, but every other manufacturer and supplier has gone up as well.
yeah,
You just can't beat them for price, quality, and range now. Their range is ridiculous.
yeah, it's massive. So staple tee, would that be your go-to?
It used to be what my clients are normally going to is the classic tee now,
Okay. Wow. Why do you
and
think that is?
uh, I think the people who I deal with like it a little bit thicker, a little bit longer, and a little bit larger. Where the staple tee is a great tee, great fit, um, but the classics just got that edge now in terms of being that little bit thicker and a little bit bigger
Yeah. Yeah,
and
I like
longer.
the classic. We
Mm,
we tend to sell staple mostly. Is that
yeah.
what you would do, Josh?
That's our sort of, yeah, our go-to default would be a staple. But we're a bit similar. A few more people going with the classic. Um, we use what's the other one? The one
Heavy?
that's just, no, oh, we're doing a lot more heavies actually.
Mm,
Um, yeah, the old oversized fit. But they are noticeably hotter in summer. I did one for myself, and I was like wearing around, I'm like, damn, it makes a difference,
Yeah.
oh yeah,
surprisingly.
Mm,
that 280 GSM compared to 180, it
Yeah,
makes a big difference.
yeah.
yeah.
Winter.
Queensland shirt, probably not.
Yep.
And would you print on the supply hoodie? Is that your number one hoodie, or again, do you go up to the next level?
Myself, I try and push people to the stencil. The supplies a good hoodie. Back in the day, it wasn't as great. This is my experience. And then I think they changed manufacturer, and the supply is a lot better in terms of holding its shape, its form. Um, but being 280 GSM, it's just a little light for winter over here,
Yeah, right.
where the stencil is that kind of perfect um, midpoint between the heavy. A lot of people are going for the relaxed hood at the moment because
Mm.
it's oversized
Mm,
and it's so comfy. I don't know if you've put one
mm,
on, but
mm,
they're it's amazing for comfort and warmth.
mm.
But they're big.
Probably
Pricey.
use them because it's pretty cold where you are.
Yeah, it is. Uh, got the heater on. Yeah, it can get really cold here. Well, we're shipping nationwide, so
Mhm.
I don't know. The bulk of what we would do would be a supply. Yes, quite a few stencils, occasionally a heavy. I don't think we do many premium in the hoodie range.
Mm,
Um, which one's 100% cotton? Is that the premium? Actually, I think it is.
I think yeah, and it's a French
Yeah.
terry,
Yeah.
so
It's not,
it's a harder wearing hoodie.
feels a
But
bit like the Comfort Color hoodie. Do
mm,
you guys ever printed on those? Um, but we had one recently, another brand, well, might as well name it, Gildan, who now have a hoodie. So we sort of split between church markets and everyone else. And the church markets tend, they've got a, a kids camp, 500 kids, so they don't, they're not looking for a classic AS color tee. So we kind of use Gildan for that market. And they've got a hoodie now called the SF. 500, I think it is, or 12,500, which is comparable to the supply in that it's 80/20, whereas I think their other hoodie, this might be the 18,600, I think that's 50/50 on poly and cotton. And so we've been supplying quite a few of these other ones, the SF 500s or whatever they are. And we actually had dye migration on a black hoodie the other day, which, yeah. And that's meant to be 80/20. And the guys were like, oh my goodness, what's this? And we reckon it's been re-dyed. And I'm going to try and
Mm.
contact them. Yeah, so it might be like a pink or something that's been dipped and dyed black and will migrate. Anything that's been post-dyed, so that you'll have this with the comfort color garments as well, that are dyed after manufacture. So they're not dyed as cotton in the mill, they're
Yep.
put together and dyed. And some colors are worse than other, but they'll dye migrate. So if Gildan are doing that, I really want to know, because I don't want, that's a nightmare. Suddenly having to put a barrier base on, especially if it's a really nice detailed print, you suddenly end up with this. Even we've got a stampinator on the big press, and that tends to kind of flatten things down nicely, but not when it's got, barrier base on it, and it can be real ugly looking print if you're not careful. So
Mm.
disappointed with that. Um, yeah, so we would be mostly staple, classic. We do, again, on some deals, push out basic. Um, so if a church is wanting to go, I mean, don't get me wrong, some churches will buy classic, that's
Mm.
fine. But if they're not wanting to go up to that, or a staple, we'll run a block or
Mm.
a classic, but sorry, a basic. One of the issues though is the color range isn't as good as something like the staple tee, and they'll look online and see that color range and then find it's not available in the basic or whatever. So that can be an issue. I like
Mm.
the stencil hoodie, um, but you suddenly start getting into expensive garments, which clothing brands might be happier with, but a brewery that's wanting to stack them high and sell them as cheap as they can doesn't always work out. So the example of the salty, I can't quite see what it is. The
Oh, the
example,
Solly hookups.
salty hookups. That's a
Yeah.
that's a clothing brand.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and you
Yeah.
do quite a few clothing brands.
Yeah. My main, when I kind of first started, was the little YouTube guys who did their, full drive and camping
Yeah,
and
right.
fishing. And
Yeah,
that's where it kind of all started back in kind of COVID, where, I'd get maybe one print a week, or two prints, one print every 2 weeks, something like that. Effort for those little guys like that. And there was a hot market for a while. And then now that everybody can kind of go around the world again, um, they kind of died off with that. So some are still continuing. Like, I
yeah,
still get a couple of little camping guys every now and then, but nowhere near as much as what it was. Where this guy Salty Hookups, he's a YouTube guy up in Kununurra, and he does some pretty crazy stuff on the rivers up there.
yeah, right. So
So
he's able to shift them. He's grown his YouTube channel, and he's able to really get the market buying his
yeah,
stuff.
well, this was his first run. So he did three different shirts. He did this one and two others, and I think he's been able to move them quite well, because I've just had to redoing, I think, about 100 of them
Yeah,
in the next week or two.
yeah.
So, and then he wants to do some hats and more designs later on.
You
So
got a
it all depends.
got an amazing name for you know a company that's only been going for a couple of years. I know you've been screen printing for longer than that. How did you get that name? We're both kind of like really envious of it. It's like, oh yeah, why didn't I think of that?
Everybody says that. It's the most unoriginal name ever. And I think it kind of pinholes me into one thing at the moment, hence why it's just screen printing. People just think I just screen print. They don't know the embroidery side, and I haven't done much in. And this comes back to the advertising and all of that. But how I came about it was I just bought the URL one day.
Yeah, okay.
And there's screenprinting.com, with Ryan at, and yeah, I saw Screen Printing Australia. I just grabbed that, and I've had that one for 6 or 7 years. It's just been sitting there until I was ready to build the website.
Oh, that was good timing. Well, I think it sounds like a big national company, right? Like it can expand into
Yeah.
that. It says what it does on the tin,
Mm.
and you can add the embroidery story to it. I think it's good.
I now own embroideryaustralia.com as well. I don't know how it wasn't taken. It, it bewilders me that those two were still available, and even in ASIC, they're available.
Yeah, right.
So I snapped them up.
Snapped up the business names as well as the domain.
Yeah,
That's perfect.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I think it's a very unoriginal name, but everybody I've spoken to have gone, that's great. It's perfect.
Josh, do you own other
Absolutely.
business names as well? Is that something?
I have a couple, not sort of like mutual stuff. It's just like, oh, I guess alone like the like the clothing brand stuff that I had, and when I used to grow edible flowers, I still own all that stuff, but not random stuff in the for future sort of ideas.
It is.
But interesting thought.
It is good to lock them up if you do
Mm.
have the name idea and it's available just to get it registered because it will protect you later on for sure.
Mm.
Um,
And it's cheap. Like to get a URL, it's cheap.
oh yeah, yeah,
Very, very cheap.
yeah. What, $20 or something? It's nothing really. Yeah,
Yeah.
a couple of beers. Um, I think the ASIC business name thing's a bit more expensive. The figure that comes to my mind is 200. Does anybody remember?
I think it's
Probably
about that.
for a few years,
Hmm.
is it?
Yeah. $80 a year, or for 3 you get it for 200.
Hmm.
That.
We have one.
Mm.
I won't say what it is. Um, and we've just had it for a few years, and it's one of our clothing brands, which is well the one I used to do, but I don't have time to do it, so we don't use the URL or anything, although we've got it. Um, but we had a clothing brand come on to us with exactly the same name.
Oh,
Yeah, awkward. And at first I thought, oh no, they're about to kind of have a go at us or something. But no, they're completely unknown. And I phoned the guy and said, are you aware that we actually own the business name of your clothing brand? And he was really upset. Like he was apologetic. And I said, no, don't worry about it. Just keep using it. And, you know, we're not going to hit you up for it. We're not using it. We own it, but we're not using it. And it was a sports thing. Like our brand wasn't around sports at all, but they'd somehow, made it a sports thing. Um, and I just thought, well, it's okay. Live and let live. It's all good. May or may not survive. We're not doing anything with it. But it made me think, if we want to, we could actually do something. Could actually say,
okay.
sorry, that domain is ours. And yeah, interesting, that whole world. But our lawyer said that when I was chatting to him last. Um, I try not to chat to lawyers very often. Um, he said, "Oh, you've got all of these brands and names. You need to just get them all registered." I didn't even know you could. So yeah, we do that. It's worth having. What about registered trademarks? Do you guys do any of that? Your business name or designs? Also worth doing. Long, laborious
Mm.
process,
Mm.
ridiculous, and not
I've,
cheap. But I'd say
I've done
that's
that once, but no, I haven't got that trademark for the business. I think my wife's going through it with her Totem Clothing at the moment, getting that trademark, because if you do end up going into stores, I think they want your business trademarked. That's what I heard a while ago. But
Yeah.
it's also good just to have that trademark for that certain category. Like
Yeah.
when we were doing our brand a while ago, we weren't allowed to use the name that we were using because somebody else had that under the category of clothing and or retail and clothing. So we had to change the name based off that.
Mm. It's tricky.
So,
I think it's good. It takes a piece of IP and makes it an asset as well. You know, if you're thinking
yep.
in the future about the value of the company, it means that people can't take it. I used to own a business called Attentive Consulting, which was quite successful. And we realized along the journey that we hadn't trademarked the name or the designs. And so we went through the process of applying for it. And halfway through, we discovered a lawyer had already trademarked the name. And they were quite famous for doing that, for looking at businesses and saying, right, I'll get this
Oh,
trademarked. Yeah. And so we threatened to
yeah.
sue them, which is kind of hard, right? Threatening to sue a lawyer because they've effectively got unlimited resources, it's just them. And they wouldn't yield, they wouldn't give it up. So we dropped it in the end and just kept going. But that really annoyed me because technically they could have moved in on our name and damaged the brand or taken a domain and, you know, got real leverage on us. That's just criminal, ironically.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, time is slightly against me this morning. I'm afraid I've got a really full day. You got up so early to do this. Apologies, we were a bit late coming through again. What time
That's
is
all
it
good.
there now?
What
10
is
to
it?
10. Is it?
Yeah, 10 to 10.
Yeah. All right. Well, look, thank you very much. Did you have any questions you wanted to throw in our direction before we wind up?
My question was, I think it's pretty much already been answered in our discussions. It was about the marketing side of things and social media and what you guys do to do that. And when we spoke about the social media and the reels and that jazz, it kind of answered all of my questions and how you kind of get the marketing and the clients that way. But
Yeah.
I suppose I do have another question based off that. What would be the percentage of clients do you get from your social marketing to say word of mouth or any other kind of advertising, or is it mainly just the social media side of things?
Josh, you want to go first on that one?
We we mostly focus on Instagram. We have Facebook too, but we don't really post much on there. Um, but it's hard to tell sometimes about like how much work you actually are getting uh from the content you're putting up. Um, I'd say we are now getting a lot more word of mouth or sort of, I guess, repeat business, and that people are getting new uniforms and someone's talked about us. Um, but I'd say new customers are still probably mostly finding us on Instagram. Um, and then now it's been sort of a year that we've been doing it full time. We're getting all the sort of word of mouth stuff coming through a bit more too. But it is, yeah, sometimes it's hard to tell because, like Dan said, it's a lot of people in our own industry like you get a new follower and it's either a digitizer or a vectorizing person or another
Yeah.
printer. Um, but yeah, but Sam, you do some paid ads um, on stuff, so
Yeah. Again, it's hard to know what percentage. We get good referrals. So what often happens in our one is, particularly in the church market, is pastors will move to a new church or the youth pastor will become a pastor somewhere else, you know, senior pastor or whatever, and they have that relationship. And so they just take you with them because for them, you know, they've got a kids camp often or a, youth group, and you're a solution for them, right? They just know, oh no, I've got to do the t-shirts for the camp, rather than, oh, I've got a brand, I'm selling it, I'm in markets already, or I'm a brewery, and you're a solution for them as well. But it's much more of a business relationship. Whereas with a church, it's, I've got a problem here. I need 500 t-shirts. I don't know how to design a logo, or so that's helpful in that they just come back to you because they know that you can help them with that. But they also generally have family networks in churches. And so we get a lot of referrals like that. And you see the same surnames coming up and think these guys are related to those guys, So that works really well. But we do get referrals from business as well, or again, family in business, I guess. But I wouldn't say it was that much of our market that I'm aware of. You don't always know. We also purchase data for emails, target marketed, and we do a lot of that. When I say a lot, we probably send. Well, we gear up for special deals based on seasons and events that typically happen in markets. And so we'll build a deal around that type of event and target market through email to them, but they're personal emails. I mean, they're literally from me. They run through a different system, rather than looking like the kind of newsletter one. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that they know they can shout at someone called Sam if they don't like this or whatever. It's back to that personal contact thing we were mentioning earlier. And we do quite a bit of that, and we get a massive amount of quotes come back from that. And sometimes months later, and sometimes that deal's closed and they come back, they just reply in the email, hey, I got this, I forgot about it, or whatever. That works really well. But you've got to be prepared. I think the moment you move to understanding your marketing in terms of your brand and your positioning in the market, you have to spend money on advertising. And it's a big layout, especially when you get going and you need to buy data. And I think we'd spend upwards of 80 grand a year on advertising.
Wow.
Yeah, it's, for us, it's pretty big, and the return is good. So I don't know how many, like on Facebook alone, like when I say Facebook, I'm really talking about advertising and Instagram. The adverts you guys are seeing, we spend 200 a day on that, like easily. Until that campaign's over, then we'll create a new one and start again. Then obviously we turn it off at Christmas time. But I don't know. Really, I should have something in the forms that they fill in that says, where did you hear about us? But I always think that's a bit annoying for the person. So I don't really know what the split is, but that's sort of how. But we have so many stats. So we analyze what the average order value is, the growth in the average order value, the mean across the year, so that we can predict if there's any variances in that. And sometimes, you were talking about peaks and troughs earlier on. You just don't know why. You just don't know why there's a dip. Sometimes I think Easter is in, middle of April rather than the end of March. That can make a big difference on the winter market when it kicks in July. But again, I look at it and go, I don't get this. Why is it more that month than it was that last year? And we analyze that. We analyze the number of recurring customers. So we go right back to 2017 and say, how many of those customers are still with us now? How many in 2018, 19, etc. And because that helps us project growth in terms of retention. So if we're able to say we get 20% new customers a year, or let's just say for easy sense for my brain, 100 new customers a year, then we know that X percentage of those are going to be there the following year, but it's compounded on all the other years. But there is a fall off eventually someone will go somewhere else. It's just the way it is. Is it going to take
Yeah.
5 years or 2 years or 1 year? Or they're never going to buy t-shirts again? And so we can kind of project what it will look like, we think, in 10 years. But as I always used to say in consulting, the problem with data is it's historical. It has to be. That's where you get it from. What's happened? This is the history of growth or whatever, sales. And then we try and project on the basis of a certainty. But the truth is that only one thing that's certain about tomorrow, and that is it's uncertain, right? You just don't know. You know, if Howard can tell me there's a whole bunch of screen printers going bust, and then you ask the question why, and we don't know the answer, then clearly there's an uncertainty around how this works. So we constantly analyze those. And what else? So that, yeah, the ratio of the number of returning customers, the ratio of conversions from quotes to actual invoicing. And that can be a bit misleading because you might have a customer that takes 5 quotes and they're only going to go for one of them, right? So we try and weed those out. And at the end of the financial year, we also analyze the percentage of each market that's given us money, ostensibly, and work out, right, that didn't really work. That deal didn't really work in that market. I don't know, kids' camps or whatever it is for a stencil hoodie, let's say, instead of a Gildan one or whatever. It really didn't work. So we do a lot of that all the time. We also have monthly targets. And so all these things I think really help sales. They really cause you to be sharper about what market you should and shouldn't be hitting, when you should hit them, where the greatest yield is. So yoga clubs, in my opinion, are without a doubt the worst customer that there is. I hope none of ours are listening. They won't be, because they are, for some bizarre reason, really fussy. And, oh, we thought it was only going to be 5 centimeters wide print, where it says 10 in the documents we gave you. Oh, yeah, but we wanted it, crazy things. And so I look at that and go, let's not market to that group, because they're costing us a lot of money to resolve customer services. And there's not enough yield on, they're an order of 50 rather than 200 or whatever. So we start to analyze all of that, and it really helps us sharpen our tools and think about the demographic or the physical location. So we don't, and you'll probably hate me for this, Nathan, we do not advertise in WA, Northern Territory, or Tasmania. We get loads of customers in WA. This week,
Wow.
I had a lady on speaking to me saying she really liked our prices, which really worried me, right? Because we all know what that means. You're too cheap, right? And we're not trying to be cheap. We're trying to hit the market in the right spot. And I suspect we're not. And I said, but it makes no sense. It's going to take 5 days to get there. It's going to cost you, probably $100 more to get it delivered. And you're in Perth, and I actually recommended Antace and Onshore. I'll now recommend you, right?
Mhm.
I know you're over there and so on. And still she came back to us. You know what I mean? Price mattered too much for her. Well, that means I don't want to be in that market. Do you see what I'm getting at? So
Yeah.
I can't remember what market she's from now, but analyzing all that stuff really helps us attune the business and tune the engine, get the potentiometers sorted out, and get the right mix of sound, as it were. What a weird analogy. That's gold. But it means that I've got a target, sales target, and we have a bell. We don't get it. This is how serious we are. Right. All right. It only gets rung once a month, and that's if we make the target. And the lady who does all the sales is obsessed with it in a good way. And she longs to ring the bell, right? Because, when she hits the target. And this month she gets to ring, or got to ring it twice, because not only did she make the target, she made the highest month we've ever done. And the point of the bell is not, the carrot and the stick type thing, but it's to give her a way of communicating to the team, one, that she's done her job, because there's a disconnect, right? They're all working out there. She's in here. She's customer focused. She's chasing quotes, doing quotes. So it's one to kind of, in a sense, validate her role, because we're in the office where the heaters are and they're in the freezing cold where the ink won't mix because it's like treacle. But also to let them know that we're going well as a business. It's that kind of cohesive, hey, we're all in this together. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
All right. Well, thank you, Nathan, for getting up earlier and sharing your story. It's great. It's interesting. You know, I was looking at that embroidery thing thinking, oh yeah, probably a 4 head, and it's an 8 head, you know, in your garage. That's astounding. And then you've got another one in the shed. You got your press there.
Yeah. I actually have my old 6 head sitting there.
It's quite the setup.
Yeah. Again, like, it doesn't get used 100% of the time. We're just building capacity in terms of what we can do. Yeah. And then now it's time to bring it up and start that advertising for the embroidery more, and maybe pair it in with some screen printing. Do you want an embroidered crew neck or a hoodie instead of a printed one? Try something different. We can do that in-house, which is through here, and the caps down the back. Yeah. So we now have the capacity to do that all in-house. It's now bringing that in to make this all work and go from there. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Oh, it does. I think you're close. Well, your wife's going to start working for you, as you were saying earlier, but you're close to that next step, which I think at some point is going to be that jump into a warehouse and, building the business away from the home a bit. Even, I guess, even if you kept the embroidery part at home and the screen printing in a warehouse, or the other way around, I guess you could do that. But I think that's where it gets super exciting, where you suddenly, okay, we need to do something a bit bigger and a bit different. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. No, I'm excited. I do feel as though we're at that point. It's just when that point will tip.
Yeah. My advice on that is leave it as long as you can. Right. Yeah. Leave it as long as you can, and then start looking. And then by the time you do need to, which can take a while, by the time you do need to move, you'll actually have, because you've been so busy, you'll actually start really refining the processes, which will change how you think about where you go. That's what we did, not deliberately, by accident. We cannot, we're at the stage in the garage. There's a 2-car garage. You couldn't swing a mouse. And we had, when it rained, which is quite often here, we had to put gazebos up, and then we needed 2 gazebos. And it's like, this is just absurd. Then we started looking, and it took several months, right? So by then, it was insane. But in that little bit of 6 months, let's say, we really started to think, well, when we move into the new place, we need that. We need one of them. We need a bench that's 6 meters long, not this little thing that, and that really helped us. I know it was terribly painful, and we fell out every day, and it was awful. And the move was a nightmare. But and sadly we didn't go to a place that was big enough. That was our mistake. But you know what I mean? That waiting to the very last minute and then having to wait a bit longer really was fun, in a funny way, really helpful for us. Either that or we're just really bad planners. I don't know which. It sounds like that's where you're going. It's great. Josh is at that point.
Sorry?
Josh is at that point right now, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely. It's been daunting, but I think it'll be good for us.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's unreal.
All right. Well, have great days, both of you, and stay in touch, Nathan. You know where we are. You've got numbers and everything. And if we're over there at some point, we'll come and see you. Same again, if you're over this way, drop in and have that beer and have smoke.
Yeah.
Sounds like all you guys want to do is eat. All you want to do is get on a boat, eat, drink, fishing rod.
What more do we want?
It's a much better plan than the one I've got. All right. Thanks again. Have a great day.
Awesome. You too.
Thanks, guys. Thanks,
Thank you.
mate.
Later.
Cheers.
See ya.